I'm so excited. I just want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the Sentinel Comics role-playing game by Greater Than Games. This is a role-playing game that came out last year. It's based on Sentinels of the Multiverse, the card game that is just hitting its 10-year anniversary this year, I think. And they're doing a Kickstarter for like the definitive final edition. But I've been very excited for this role-playing game. I got the chance to play test it a couple years back, and I think it is very fun if you want to jump into a superhero style game and start telling some pretty wild stories. So I love it because its adventures are being told in the sense of comic books, right? Each pre-written adventure is its own unique comic. I put a couple covers on one of these pages. But I wanted to start by taking a look at just one of the characters in particular to show you how the game kind of works, tell you a bit about the mechanics, and yeah, start letting you tell your stories. So this next page, this is one of my favorite characters to play actually in the normal Sentinels, is Absolute Zero here. You can see a thing I find very interesting about this compared to a lot of role-playing games. This is the first page of the character sheet, and it's mostly cool flavor information, right? Talks about my costume, talks about my alias, talks about my basic characteristics, how I got my powers. But most of the page is set up for my principles. This is like, in D&D terms, your twists, your traits, I suppose, your bonds. These are the two things that really define Absolute Zero, and they tell me what my role-playing things might be. And I can use pre-written stuff, which we'll talk about, or I can come up with these on my own. During role-playing, I'm reliant on my coolant suit, and I cannot normally function without it. That's going to come up just when I'm telling stories. And my principles of cold, I have an affinity to the cold. I can interact with cold temperatures and effects with ease, right? Things that come up. And because those things come up, they also give me twists. That's going to be a big part of this game. How could those things go wrong? If a twist occurs, how does my suit get damaged? How do I lose my power over the cold? Things like that. And I love that it's right here on like the first page because it is so important to your character, just knowing what these things are. But the big stuff.
I like DJ Phoenix's description. If Iron Man used Iceman's powers, you'd get Absolute Zero.
Absolutely. Oh gosh, and in the main, just thinking about the main game, getting like all of the equipment getting stronger and stronger as each mission progresses. It's so fun. But here on the second page of the character sheet, this is like the meat of the game, and I want to talk about this because the Sentinel comic system uses a wild mechanic, I suppose, called the gyro system, which stands for green, yellow, red, and out. And basically, in this game, imagine that you are a superhero in a comics world, right? You have characters that are very, very good when stuff is super, super tense, right? When it's the end of the world, when he needs to, Superman is gonna like dig deep and like blast out with some I-beams, right? But if he's just stopping people from robbing a bank, is he gonna use I-beams for that? I mean, probably not. It's not a big tense situation. He can just like, flick some people in the head, and that'll work. This game is built around that concept. There are scenes that start in green, very, very nice, very calm, move on to, a little more stressful, and then move on to a little bit more painful. You also have a health range, which is similarly split up into green, yellow, and red. And basically, anytime you're playing the game, you look at your health, you look at the scene, whichever one is worse, those are the kind of abilities that you can use. And you can see that the bottom of this character sheet is split into green, yellow, and red. You don't get to use your red powers until it's red time. Like you're down to your last couple hit points, or last couple health, excuse me, or in the most tense scene possible. I love this. Absolute Zero is a character that is pretty good in all those types of scenes. You can see they have a D8. They've got a physical representation of the die for each one of those. But other characters might have a D10 for green and a D6 for red because they're someone who's really good when it's just normal. I'm good at like hacking things. When when stuff gets super chaotic, I'm not as good at stuff. And I love that because it feels very comic book. It feels very different than what I often get out of like a D&D dungeon crawl for sure. There is some sort of, like resource management stuff there, but this is just like naturally in the system, which I like a lot. Whew, yes, moving on real quick. The way this game works is every time you do a thing, you're going to roll 3 dice. They're going to be based on what power you're using, what quality you're attaching to that, and what status the scene is in. So like I said, if you were not so good at the yellows, you've got only a D6 there, and you're in the yellow scene, one of your dice is going to be a yellow. You're going to roll all 3 of them, and you're going to line them up. Whichever got the highest, your max, whichever got the lowest, the min, and the mid. And your abilities are based on what you roll. Some of them might say, okay, in this scene, you're going to do damage equal to your mid die. Or in this scene, because it's red, oh my gosh, you're going to do min plus max and add them together for damage. And it's just fun to throw 3 dice all the time. It's fun to like build a dice pool based on your things. And you look at your qualities and you're like, I think I'm going to be a little bit more of this today instead of a little bit more like that, get the most benefit I can. So if we go back to another character, this is Muse. Muse is a very psychic character with this inner demon, this darkness that can potentially come out. But if you take a look at that second page, powers, a lot of illusion, intuition, invisibility, suggestion, telekinesis, and these qualities about awakened mind or conviction or creativity. This is a character that really digs deep when things get tense. They get a D12. So their maximum die is probably going to be pretty high. They're going to do a lot of stuff. So I love it because my character sheet is this dynamic thing. I'm putting together a lot of elements in order to do anything. And it's just kind of fun. Like, what can I do right now? What's my best move in this moment? Which is a really fun thing instead of, just, well, what's my best ability? I'm going to use that. And then my second best and then my third best. Like in this game, it all depends. Monsters work the same way. This is Fright Train. This big, huge tank character, this big bruiser. They also have powers and qualities. They have health, so you're damaging them a whole lot. Some of the enemies, like in Sentinels of the Multiverse, this is Biomancer. Biomancer, his status is based on how many minions are in play. And the more of them you defeat, the stronger Biomancer gets. So you maybe want to punch Biomancer out before defeating all of their minions. Cool abilities in here like flesh crafting, awesome stuff. Minions are just dice. And there's the 5 dice in the game, and every time you beat them up enough, they lower their die type, and they keep lowering them. And if you get them down to a D4, they can't do much damage, and then they're gone, out of the game, which I think is
Ravenous
fantastic.
Guppies was the description.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah, those D4s. That's why I put this on here, because they're great, like damaged bots, Ravenous Guppies. I like that sharks are a D8, and laser sharks are a D10. Good examples of minions there. The game also, of course, in every superhero comics game, you're not just fighting enemies, there's stuff going on. So one of the actions that you can take is attack, one of them is defend, but one of the most important ones is overcome, which is you need to help the scene move along, and you have to do the things that the minions and the villains are trying to stop you from doing, like accessing the codes, dealing with seismic thumpers, who knows? And using your overcome ability will help you succeed at these tasks and move the scene along. These scenes are not just you go in a room and there's 3 kobolds. These scenes are epic. Like these scenes are entire like movie, like 20-minute sort of things, right? So there is not just there's a final boss I got to fight. It's I'm moving in and I see the storm approaching and like things are changing because of that. And then the storm hits and then like even more stuff. And then the boss comes out at the final bit. That's all the same scene in this game. So it's a very cool, fluid way to run encounters and build all these things together. Couple specific things that I really like about this game. Every attack hits. That's not the important thing. Your attack hits. You're a superhero, right? You want to punch the villain, you do it. The question is, how much damage are you going to do? And so there's a lot of like armor and stuff going on there. It's very cool. I enjoy that. I also enjoy that in this game, initiative is shared. You just pass it to other people. So whenever your turn ends, you just decide who's going to go next. You also can't die in this game unless you decide your character dies. So whenever you drop to like 0, it's up to you to decide what happens to your character. We know comics. You come back. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's also a ton of character creation stuff in here. There's lots of tables. You can build characters totally randomly if you want to, and it's really fun to do and see what you get. I've done it before. But there's also lots of choices and a lot of freedom in how you write what these abilities are. I mean, superhero games are hard because there's so many possibilities. So many things are so similar. Like, what's the difference between like Iron Man got mentioned, Iron Man and Iron Heart? Like, they're the different characters with different abilities. and they're kind of similar at the same time. So would they be the same character class? Are they different? I don't know. This game dives into it really well, and I think if you're looking for a superhero game that really gives you all of that, you should absolutely check this game out. Sentinel Comics RPG. I just want to run like 5 games of this immediately.
Awesome. Well, speaking of RPG games that I want to run constantly, I think our guest is in the green room and ready. So we're going to swing on over there and start talking to Alex, and we'll catch up with Rich here in just a little bit.